Hello there, I'm Haydee Adams in for Esther Gitui Hewitt. It is Friday, August 25th, and this is Africa 54. Zimbabweans brace for a close election as vote counting continues. Wednesday's poll saw delays at voting stations and ballot paper shortages. Gabon holds elections on Saturday. Incumbent President Ali Bongo is eyeing a third term, but the opposition claims he doesn't have the strength or track record to keep his election promises. And in our entertainment segment with Heather Maxwell, the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. What does it mean to New Yorkers and fans around the world? These stories and more coming up on today's Africa 54. In our top story, vote counting is ongoing in Zimbabwe following Wednesday's general election. Delays at polling stations and ballot paper shortages forced the country's electoral commission to extend voting by an additional day in some places. Rights groups and observers say they are concerned about the country's electoral process. Columbus Muvunga is in Harare for us and filed this report.
While vote counting began Thursday, in some parts of the capital, voting continued for a second day because of delays on day one. At this polling station, Joanna Momombe, seeking a parliamentary seat on the opposition Citizens for Coalition for Change ticket, accused the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission or ZEC of working with the ruling ZANU-PF party to rig the polls.
Honestly speaking, I think ZEC has pushed us to the limit. You know, this is a flawed process already, right? It's really a flawed process. There are residents who have already gone, who are not even able to come back, you see. So I personally think that, you know, ZEC is playing tricks with the residents or with the citizens.
Officials from the Electoral Commission refused to comment on the rigging accusation. Tendai Shirau, an official with the ZANU-PF, said any accusations need to be backed by evidence.
I think whoever has a claim or an allegation has a burden to prove that, because political bantering at this stage doesn't work. I just voted. I took my ID here, and the first stage they had to ask me. They had to ask me for my ID, and they had to look at it. And they also went to the voters' roll and looked at my name, and I voted. So if someone is not in the voters' roll, I think it's just a claim which needs to be. You are a journalist. You've got to make sure that you ask them further to prove their allegations, because when that happens, it's criminal, and I doubt if that has ever happened.
Utulele Slaigwana, the chief elections officer at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, explained why voting was extended in some parts of Harare.
To ensure that those affected by polling stations which did not open on time, the head of state of Zimbabwe has enacted Statutory 15 of 2023 to ensure that August 24, 2023 being the last day for elections.
Election observers, such as Crisis Coalition of Zimbabwe, have condemned the conduct of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, accusing it of withholding ballot papers in urban areas like Bulawayo and Harare, where the opposition has strong support. Obet Matharaore is the spokesman for Crisis Coalition of Zimbabwe.
Which is a clear case of voter suppression by the Election Management Board, trying to prop up voters in rural communities and suppressing voting in urban constituencies where the opposition party is dominant. What this then does is to disenfranchise our voters, and at the end of the day, it really assaults the credibility of the electoral process. So it's difficult for the outcome of the election process to be free, fair, and credible.
Several of Zimbabwe's previous elections have been hotly disputed after widespread violence, usually directed by ZANU-PF and the opposition, and accusations of Electoral Commission siding with the ruling party. This year, President Emmerson Mnangagwa is running for re-election against 10 opposing candidates, including Nelson Chamisa for the Citizens Coalition for Change. Results are expected by Monday. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, earlier reporter Fungai Masona spoke to voters on the streets of Harare to hear what they think of the electoral process.
This is the second day post-Zimbabwe's 2023 harmonized elections. Today we are in Chitungisa where we want to understand the current mood and situation post the election. A lot of people are anxiously and eagerly waiting to hear the results as the local results are currently coming in.
The elections were conducted peacefully. We haven't heard of any violence so far.
I think for now we are good. The voting process was not bad.
We did what needed to be done. The extension now is not even necessary. Extended voting is okay. I think it allows transparency and gives opportunity for everyone to vote.
Vote counting is currently in progress as a lot of people are anxiously and eagerly waiting to hear the presidential results in Zimbabwe. Fungai Masona, Voice of America News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Meanwhile, the West African nation of Gabon will hold elections this Saturday, August 26th. Incumbent President Ali Bongo is seeking a third term in office. He's up against 18 other candidates. They're all trying to unseat the president and end the Bongo family's 56-year grip on power. President Bongo is also trying to dispel opposition claims that he does not have the strength and the track record to fulfill his election promises. Alice Rizzo reports.
Gabonese President Ali Bongo has campaigned for re-election in remote corners of the rainforested nation this month, ahead of an August 26 election. He's seeking to dispel opposition claims that he lacks the strength and track record to fulfill generous electoral promises in a third term. Critics say he has done too little to funnel Gabon's oil wealth towards the third of its 2.3 million population living in poverty, and question his fitness to govern after a stroke in 2018. On his wide-ranging campaign trail, the 64-year-old has tried to disprove this image.
It's a pact that I propose that you and I enter into. The aim of this social and Republican pact is to rebuild our country's social and economic model, to provide it with a solid foundation on which to project itself serenely into the future.
His main challenger is Albert Ondo Osa, the economics and management professor, was picked by an alliance of 6 main opposition parties as their joint candidate last Friday. His campaign has focused on the need for change and better economic opportunities. Tensions are running high ahead of the vote, amid fears recent electoral system changes could sow doubt about the validity of the result and provoke unrest. Deadly clashes after Bongo's 2016 victory saw the parliament building gutted by fire. The opposition has already voiced its concern over a new single ballot system, which means voters have to pick a presidential candidate and lawmaker from the same party. It also opposes a recent constitutional change to abolish 2 rounds of voting for the president, claiming this favors Bongo. Bongo's camp has positioned him as the firm favorite to win the race, although there has been no reliable polling.
Alice Rizzo of Reuters filed that report there for us. Well, amongst those running for president in Gabon is female candidate Victoire Laseni Dubos, a former Minister of Family and Social Affairs. She is running as an independent candidate.
Je me sens porteuse d'un fardeau.
I feel I'm carrying a burden so that women understand that the great change is with us, the women. The chances are there because Gabonese men and women know me all over the country. We don't know what the ballot box has in store for us this year, but otherwise, I'm confident. We've gone from 2 rounds to 1, but I think it's part of the system's strategy to stay in power. But there are worse things. What's worse is that when you draw the deputy's ballot paper, the president's photo is also on the same ballot paper. But this can backfire. It can backfire because people who have understood this runs the risk of undermining the deputy that would have liked to retain. Because of this double photo, they can be seen everywhere in Libreville, and that will be found on the ballot paper.
And that was Victoire Lassini Dubos, presidential candidate in Gabon's election coming up this Saturday. Well, we're going to move now to West Africa, the country of Niger, which has authorized Mali and Burkina Faso's armed forces to intervene on its territory in case of an attack. That's according to a statement issued by the three countries. It's a possible sign the junta in Niger plans to keep resisting regional pressure to stand down. The Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, has been trying to negotiate with the coup leaders, but the bloc has warned it is ready to send troops into Niger to restore constitutional order if diplomatic efforts fail. The foreign ministers of Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali say they've met in the Nigerian capital Niamey to discuss boosting cooperation and security and other joint issues. According to the joint statement, the Burkinabe and Malian ministers, quote, reiterate their rejection of an armed intervention against the people of Niger, which they say will be considered a declaration of war. Well, now sanctions imposed on Niger following the July military coup on that country have seen food prices rise across West Africa. There are worries the situation in Niger could spin out of control. Senanu Tor reports for us from Ghana.
At the Agbogloshi market in Accra, traders saw through heaps of rotten onion stock to salvage the good ones to sell. Ghana imports about 70% of its onion from Niger and has been experiencing shortages since the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, closed the borders around Niger following the July 26th coup that ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. Mamoudou Al-Haldo is an onion trader and says the regional security challenges are disrupting the food supply chain, raising prices.
Before, when they take the onion from Niger, they can pass Burkina to Ghana. But because of jihadis, jihadis, there are many days, they are attacking the cars. So later, they are returning to Benin and enter Togo and come to Ghana. So about a few days ago, when the coup happened in Niger, and the Benin people too, they closed their borders.
A 2022 report by the Global Network Against Food Crisis placed about 41 million people in West Africa and the Sahel region at risk of experiencing an acute food crisis or worse. Ziad Hamwi is a co-chair of the Food Trade Coalition for Africa. He says ECOWAS' decision to place border sanctions on Niger threatens the entire region's food security.
There's a lot of food across the region. The problem is not with growing the food. The problem is with moving the food from the areas of production to the areas of consumption.
Hamwi calls on the regional bloc to prioritize food security in their approach to the Niger coup.
We have to start by examining the deficiencies in our regional agriculture value chains and to look at what really the problems are, to address these problems and to avoid the scenarios happening over and over again because of this nexus between security and economics and politics.
ECOWAS says it is prepared to send troops against Niger's military junta leader if they cannot be persuaded to restore constitutional order. Security analysts have criticized the move, noting the absence of a solid plan for military intervention in the region, or any plan to deal with refugees and other likely consequences of a war. Mutaru Mumuni Mukhtar is the executive director for the West African Center for Counter-Extremism. He says Niger has existing challenges with violent extremism and ethnic conflicts that threaten the entire region.
So these things makes the country very vulnerable for any kind of military intervention. So when you intervene militarily without a blueprint for containing possible fallout from it, there's a tendency that vulnerable young people who are unemployed, jobless, frustrated, angry young people could be transformed into violent rebel-type groups in support of the coup leaders in the country. And that can have a huge impact on security in the sub-region.
Advocates continue to urge ECOWAS to solve the Niger crisis diplomatically to avoid any economic and security catastrophe for all of West Africa. Sana Anutot for VOA News, Accra, Ghana.
And now find us on social media and let us know what you think about Africa 54 and all of our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, here's Heather Maxwell lets us in on hip-hop's 50th anniversary and what it means for New Yorkers and fans around the world. We'll be back in a moment.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain, and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week. Right here on Red Carpet, we bring you the latest in...
Welcome back. Let's take a look now at other news from across the African continent. A leader of the Islamic State group who allegedly planned and sponsored 3 deadly attacks in the Libyan capital Tripoli in 2018 has been captured. That's according to Libya's Prime Minister. The government's media office offered no further details about the identity or nationality of the alleged jihadist who was arrested in a joint military operation. French prosecutors say former President Nicolas Sarkozy will be tried in 2025 over allegations he took money from late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi to fund one of his election campaigns. The trial is set to hear explosive evidence that Sarkozy, along with 12 other co-defendants, conspired to take cash from the Libyan leader to illegally fund his victorious 2007 bid for the presidency. Sarkozy has appealed against both judgments. Moving to East Africa, Sudan's military ruler has visited army bases near the capital on his first trip away from Khartoum since an internal conflict broke out in April. His visit comes as the United Nations warns the war could tip the entire region into a humanitarian catastrophe. Moving to the United States now, former U.S. President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty in a Fulton County, Georgia court to 41 charges that accuse him and 18 co-defendants of taking part in schemes to overturn the state's 2020 presidential election results. VOA's congressional correspondent, Catherine Gibson, has more.
The first ever arrest photograph of a former U.S. president, taken as Donald Trump was processed on charges alleging he participated in a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in the key swing state of Georgia. Trump told reporters later Thursday that his opponents were trying to derail his presidential nomination bid.
What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before.
Trump, who is the current frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, is not under arrest and can still campaign.
Now, this could get quite messy, as you can quite imagine, especially because the trials are, the schedule of the trials is the same as the schedule of the election.
Trump faces 91 criminal charges across 4 separate cases, including allegations of campaign fraud in New York, mishandling of classified documents in Florida, and charges in a Washington court that he encouraged the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. But some analysts say Georgia's charges carry the most weight.
This is the most serious one for him politically. And the reason I say that is because they have him on tape talking about how he wanted to change the outcome of the election.
At a prayer rally in Georgia this week, members of faith communities pushed back against calls to remove District Attorney Fani Willis from her position because she is prosecuting Trump.
District Attorney Willis has demonstrated courage, integrity, and unyielding commitment to upholding the principles of justice that lie at the heart of our legal system. Her efforts to investigate and prosecute former President Donald Trump send a powerful message that accountability knows no bounds.
Outside the courthouse Thursday, dozens of the former president's supporters criticized the charges.
Our government, literally right before everyone's face, weaponized the justice system. This is crazy.
The president's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who is among the 18 co-defendants accused of a criminal conspiracy, said the charges were unjust.
This case is a fight for our way of life. This indictment is a travesty.
But analysts say the large number of co-defendants could be a key factor in proving the case against Trump.
When you bring in multiple defendants on a criminal case, many of them may decide that they want to make a deal with one of the prosecutors to lessen their own penalty that they would receive in the case. And by doing so, they would have to agree with the prosecutor to provide evidence that the prosecutor doesn't already have.
Willis has asked the court to begin the trial for Trump and his co-defendants on October 23rd of this year. Trump opposed the trial date in a filing Thursday afternoon. Catherine Gibson, VOA News.
Well, it's time now for our entertainment report, and joining me here in studio is Heather Maxwell. She's the host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio program, and she has got the latest news and notes on an important milestone in the world of hip-hop. Hello there, Heather. Tell us more.
Hello, Haiti. Today we take a moment to honor one of America's most powerful musical and cultural movements in the world, hip-hop. The genre turned 50 this month. The story goes that on August 11th, 1973, Jamaican-born Clive Campbell, better known to history as DJ Kool Herc, the founding father of hip-hop, was spinning records for his sister's back-to-school party in the West Bronx, New York City, and he tried something new. He added a second turntable to extend the instrumental beat that gave people what they wanted to dance longer. That little innovation gave birth to the break beat, which became the cornerstone of hip-hop, which today is among the top 3 most popular genres in the world. New York City has been abuzz with celebrations all month, kicking off on Friday, August 11th at Yankee Stadium, where thousands of people partied into the night as part of a Bronx All-Star Bash. Now, let's take a look at just how much hip-hop and its milestone 50th anniversary means to New Yorkers and a few of hip-hop's iconic artists.
Celebrating 50 years is amazing because there was no value on this when we first started. Nobody was interested in hiring a hip-hop DJ or getting an MC to get on the mic or getting some breakdancers to come out and perform on the stage or using graffiti on a library card like we did today.
Yeah.
yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop. Until the beat, baby, pop, you don't stop.
I go by the name of Lupe Fiasco. Representing that first name.
This is the heart right here. You're in the heart of the city of the Bronx. This is the home of the birth. This is what it's all about.
Bongo and that class was on the beat. Bongo and that class was on the beat. Back in the days, just here, y'all don't see nothing.
This anniversary means, first of all, that you can do anything with your mind. That's the first thing. This is 1600 Sedgwick Avenue.
That's right.
I lived here 50 years ago exactly to this day.
You say something.
Here, it's right here.
I love how raw and real early hip hop was, and how much they talked about like the struggle of like the streets and just like really raw like experiences. It was telling a story.
Let's go, New York! So tell me where you from.
Uptown, baby. Uptown, baby. You get down, baby.
This whole culture came a long, long way, as you can see, and it's all about peace, love, and unity. You know, I'm 55 years old. I remember when they said rap was gonna last for 5, maybe 4 years. It's 50, as you can see, and everybody's out here celebrating. It's worldwide.
Give it up for hip hop, y'all. New York City, I want to thank you for hip hop. It allowed me to be who I am right now. So I thank the creators and everybody who contributed to hip hop with some love. Thank you very much. Very, very much.
For more on hip-hop and its 50th anniversary celebrations, not only in the U.S. but also in Africa, please tune in to my radio show this Sunday, Music Time in Africa, online at voanews.com or live stream on your local FM or shortwave radio station. Haiti, back to you.
Well, Heather, thank you so much. And do be sure to join Heather Maxwell, her entertainment reports every Friday here on Africa 54. And so that is where we're going to leave our show this week. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, you can watch more of Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend. Do take care. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.